This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, I don't know about you, but this is the year we vote for Pedro for the 20th anniversary of Napoleon Dynamite. Now, I don't know how many of you folks are doing the dance, but here to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Napoleon Dynamite, the person that dared let her daughter go to the prom with him. Folks, I have the lovely Canadian, beautiful, talented Ellen Dubin on the phone with me tonight. How do you do, Ellen?
I'm doing great. With that introduction, I'm doing even better than great. Thanks for having me.
Did you vote for Pedro?
I did vote for Pedro, and I'm still voting for him. I still got a button, actually, from the movie.
Yeah?
A T-shirt. I've got a T-shirt. Yeah, I've got the T-shirt, and I'm so glad I still have it. A lot of people want it, but I will not give up my vote for Pedro T-shirt.
Well, I think, considering, and I don't want to get political here, but I think that a lot of people will vote for Pedro right now.
And I actually saw that online, yes, and we will not get political. Whatever your political beliefs are, I'm not going to condone or condemn, but yes, a lot of people have these T-shirts and they say, this is who I'd like to vote for, instead of, He's still very popular, isn't he, Pedro?
Pedro, yes. Vote for Pedro.
Do you know, this has actually come up recently that you brought up Pedro, and I know we're going to focus on Napoleon Dynamite, but do you know that Efren Ramirez and I, that was not our first movie together. Did you know that?
So you voted for him prior to that?
Yes, I was voting for his pizza. He was a pizza boy in a movie I did called Tammy and the T-Rex in 1994. It was, I think, all of our first movie in Los Angeles, and I was on set shooting this movie, and I play this sort of crazy assistant to this mad scientist, and we take Denise Richards. She also starred in it. It was her first movie.
Denise Richards?
Boyfriend, Paul Walker, the late, great Paul Walker. It was his first movie, too. And his brain goes into a dinosaur. And it's a fascinating plot. And Terry Kaiser was the mad scientist, and we ordered a pizza. And in the scene, Efren Ramirez, Pedro, delivers the pizza to our labyrinth, our crazy science den, where we're playing and tinkering with the scientist and Paul Walker's brain. And he sees this is his big scene, Efren's big scene. He sees the dinosaur and he drops the pizza and runs out. And that's his scene. And so flash forward to Napoleon Dynamite, and I'm sitting in the backyard and we're eating our lunch, and he comes up to me and says, "You remember me?" And I said, no. He goes, "I was the pizza boy in Tammy and the T-Rex." And we started laughing so hard, and we took a bunch of pictures on Tammy and the T-Rex, and every time I see him at events in L.A., we go, "Pizza Pedro." So that's my other connection with Efren Ramirez, who's the funniest man I've ever met. So,
do you have any stories about Whoopi Goldberg?
No. Should I?
Isn't she in Tammy and the T-Rex?
No.
Oh, gee.
Not. I'd love to have some stories about. Was she in a dinosaur movie?
I thought. Oh no, maybe it's Theodore Rex.
Let me look. Yes, she was, and it's funny that you brought that up, because when I saw her in that movie, I thought, is this a sequel that I missed out on? Yes. I'm just double checking while we're talking.
I could have it wrong because I didn't see Tammy and the T-Rex, so.
Yeah, no, Whoopi definitely wasn't in it. But I think she was in the dinosaur movie. Just a sec. That's the beauty of fast computers and IMDb. Let's see. I thought there was a movie, though, another T-Rex movie. And you know what? That T-Rex was so popular, maybe...
Well, yeah, I was wrong on that one. She was in one, so I don't remember, but...
you know what? If I come across her, I'm going to ask her what she's like, and then I can tell you in the next.
Well, I will ask you what Denise Richards was like.
Wow, Denise, you have to remember when you're doing a movie that especially when it's your first movie, we were all so green and scared and wide-eyed and innocent. And Denise and I became very good friends. We would shop together and go in and exercise. We both discovered Pilates together. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a form of exercise where you're sort of on a machine with springs, and it keeps you very long and lean, and it's very big in Los Angeles. You know, all the exercise things are very big.
Okay.
And Denise and I introduced Denise to it, and we used to go to classes together, and we'd go out to eat, and we just had a lot of fun, a lot of giggly girls, and we were both very weight conscious. I mean, we're both very slim in this movie. If you see the movie, we're like, whoa, and in very good shape. And we were just eating on set and making sure we didn't have any sugar. And I remember we ate a lot of popcorn. Denise and I ate a lot of popcorn. I remember she called me one day and she said, I'm going to get married. And I said, oh, yeah, who? She goes, Charlie Sheen. And I went, Charlie Sheen? Okay, good. When's the wedding? And she says, well, I'm going to go to Italy and get my dress. And flash forward, the rest is history with that interesting, tumultuous relationship. But yeah, I lost touch with her. Actually, I just sent her a few emails over the last couple of weeks because this movie, Tammy and the T-Rex, is going to be playing in Chicago June the 17th. It's coming out, a new remastered X-rated version, Greg.
X-rated.
X-rated because there's a lot of gore in it. A lot of, dinosaur brains being spewed on our faces and weird chomping offs of heads. And it's such a bad comedy. It is so good. One of those cheesy movies that you love to hate. So, Denise was a delight. Paul Walker was a delight. Efren was fun, even though I didn't work with him as much. And then Terry Kaiser, who's from Weekend at Bernie's. You remember that crazy movie?
Oh, he's good at playing dead people because he played a dead guy in Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood as well.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Well, he's a great physical comedian. He really is. He's one of the best farceurs I've ever played with. And we had wonderful chemistry, and it just, when you get to play with an actor that is so amazing, I think it elevates your performance. I don't understand these actors that don't want to work with somebody better than themselves. Like, if somebody's going to teach me something or is going to elevate my game, Greg, then I'm going to go, yes, bring it on. I want to work with somebody that challenges me and makes my performance better. And Terry was such a great comedic actor. I learned a lot about comedy from him. And we improvised a lot, too, because we went off script, because he was one of these, I would imagine that may he rest in peace, the late, great Robin Williams, who I think is one of the most genius comedic actors that has ever lived.
Yeah.
Working with him, you really have to be on your toes. Like, he would take you to places. And Terry was like that with me. He just was like, wow, boom, 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 boom. So I was really paying attention. But, in answer to your question about Denise, all these other actors, we were just enjoying ourselves and just happy to have a paycheck and have our first movie. Yeah.
She nearly went X-rated in Wild Things.
Well, that was a pretty wild movie. I remember coming out of the pool. That's when she comes in the blue bathing suit out of the pool. And with
Nev Campbell.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that was a very sexy little scene there. Yes. Actually, that was one of my favorite movies she did. And also, my other favorite movie of hers that she did was I think it was called Drop Dead Gorgeous, about the world of pageants. You know
what? So many people hated that movie, and I loved it.
I thought it was good. I agree. And I thought I thought she was fantastic in that movie. And I think it was one of Allison Janney's when she was starting to just get on the cusp of stardom there. I think she was even her mother or something. But I thought it was fantastic. And one of my favorite of Denise's movies. I agree. See, I knew I was happy doing this interview. We have the same taste in movies.
And who could forget Ellen Burstyn with that beer can burned into her hand?
Oh. That's hilarious.
And the judges. Oh, that was all funny.
Oh God, I thought it was a really smart commentary on the world of pageants, and I think it's very true. Very true. It's a matter of life and death for these mothers
Yes.
in these pageants. So, yeah.
Absolutely. No, I enjoyed it and had a lot of fun with that movie. And I saw that in the theaters in 1999 when it came out.
Wow, is that when it was? Oh,
Yeah.
time is flying.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I should see if I can get somebody on here to celebrate that anniversary. I never thought of it because I don't think it's out on Blu-ray yet.
It's not? I don't know.
I don't know. That'd be one I would
That's a
grab,
good thing
certainly.
to investigate, yeah.
Yes, because I enjoyed that movie. I had a lot of fun with that.
Me too.
Yeah. But you mentioned Robin Williams. Did you work with him?
Never. It was one of, I wish, it's one of my idols. I've never seen anybody like him. But I do have a story about him.
Okay.
I was doing a movie of the week in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of people who, when we did movies in Vancouver, everybody stayed at the Sutton Place Hotel on Robson Avenue. It was a famous hotel. A lot of actors stayed there. And they put me up there, flew me from Toronto. Trying to remember what movie I was doing. I'll remember that in the middle of the interview. So I'm sitting there with a group of people from the cast, and there's sort of an outside dining area that's outside, not outside, but outside of the dining area, sort of little tables. And all of a sudden, he comes by, Robin Williams, and he's got one leg. You know when you're a bike rider, you cuff this sort of ring around your pants so you don't get stuck in your bike wheels?
Okay.
He had one leg still cuffed with that cuff thing, and he brought in his bike, and he stops at the table and goes, "Hey there, how are you?" And does 15 minutes of nonstop improv where he grabs the napkin off the table. He does his Russian character. "Hello there, I'm Miss Babuchka." Does the Russian thing and does all these crazy characters and entertains us for 15 minutes straight without, like, he doesn't know us. And at the end of it, he says, "I better go and take a shower and go up to the room." And we just said, "Thank you so much for taking the time." It was an amazing performance. I was literally on the floor. He just would not stop. He couldn't stop. His energy, his characters, just flowing into one into the other. I mean, the man, I think, was a genius. So that's I didn't work with him, but I got a private performance. Really close up. He was magic. He was a magic man.
Yeah, I feel bad about his passing too. It's
me too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the old story. You know, comedians are the saddest people inside, and it's a cliche, but sometimes there's truth to that. You know, there's a clown on the outside, but a very desperate person calling on the inside. You know, there's a lot of sadness. And out of a lot of sadness comes comedy. You know, it's the basis for a lot of extreme behavior, but there's a lot of depression. I've spent a lot of time with stand-up comics, and I've never experienced so many extreme highs and lows. I mean, actors, there's a lot of different mood swings as well. I mean, as humans. I mean, actors are humans. Yes, we are humans, not robots. And I find that the world of stand-up is such a difficult world because you're even more of the product. I mean, we as actors are a product, but we can have a script and we can have a director, and usually a stand-up comic stands up in a bare stage in a comedy club where people are drinking and screaming at them and yelling, and it's kind of a really rejecting kind of atmosphere, rejection atmosphere, and they're just a lot of miserable comedians, but they certainly do a lot of great work. And yeah, it's really sad when someone you love passes like that.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
You feel helpless, and I'm sure his family will never get over it, ever.
No.
Well,
you know, I lived in New Brunswick all my life. You've been out this way before?
Yes, it's absolutely beautiful and the nicest people, but I only spent a day there going through, so I didn't get much of a chance. It's actually on my list to spend more time there, so I'll have to let you know when I come there, and you can show me your favorite restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have not been to the Maritimes enough. I need to come.
Well, you know, I lived here all my life, and it wasn't until 2017 when I had Lisa Langlois on here for the second time. She invited me to be her assistant at Horrorama, and she and I have become great friends since then, and she showed me a lot of Toronto culture. Yeah, oh boy, when I get off the Porter Airlines, I love Porter.
Oh, it's the best, isn't it?
Yeah, right down there in the Toronto Island. And I'm going to tell you, when I get off the plane and get up there in that city, I was like, this is not Fredericton.
Yeah, there certainly is not. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, they're all so different, the cities. But you know what? Isn't it nice to have the different kind of atmospheres? It's just sort of cool. Just a different culture, different flavor.
Well, you know what's funny? I've been to Moncton and St. John and have been homesick. I go to Toronto and I didn't want to come home.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And every time I go to Toronto, I've been there twice since, and every time I go, it feels more like home than New Brunswick.
Interesting.
Yeah, if I could afford it, I would live there, you know. I would love to, and you know, when I go up, I always hook up with Lisa and spend some time with her, and she knows all the great places to eat, so yeah.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does.
Yeah. So
if you go to L.A., she can show you around too.
You know what? She told me, I don't have a passport, but she said, you need to get a passport, go to, because her son, Emerson, is in L.A. because they know that's, Lisa moved back after being, lived in California for 32 years, and she moved back. But
yes.
Emerson was brought up there. I guess Emerson, he's old enough now where he just wanted to stay there. But I met Emerson on the first year that I went to Horrorama, and he was up. And so Lisa was saying, you got to go to L.A. and Emerson can show you around.
I cannot believe, I hadn't seen him for a long time, and then I think Lisa and I went to some show in L.A., and I saw this tall blonde guy, and I said, who's that? She goes, that's Emerson. I go, where's the baby? What happened? She said, Ellen, kids grow up. I said, I forgot. Yeah. Yeah, he really did grow up.
No, I was up for Horrorama, and I met, I get a lot of interviews out through that, so anytime I'm in Toronto, I connect with Lisa, and she took me around and showed me all of the locations for Class of 1984, because that was my introductory to her, was her dressed in all that punk rocker hair.
I never had seen those pictures until recently when she started to doing these conventions, and it's like, but she looks great.
Yep.
Yeah.
I saw that movie back in, I had an uncle that owned a video store back in the 80s, a good portion of the 80s, and that was where I saw Class of 1984 at an age where I wasn't supposed to see it. And I remembered Lisa as Patsy, so she stood out to me. So the fact that I have a friendship with her is a real thrill for me.
So that's sort of like a nice, what's the word, like revisit, like a nice reunion, like it's sort of an interesting full circle. That's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and she did the Doubt for Her Face challenge, speaking of Robin Williams. She did that when she was in California, and when she came back here, I got her to do one with me.
And?
Yeah, we had, but, huh?
It was great.
It was great, because I was like, you know what? I wanted to do one of these with one of my guests. Yep.
Yeah.
So she didn't take one in the one with me, but she gave one to me. So a pie in the face. So I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, I'm open to that.
From Lisa, we'll accept anything from Lisa. She's such a sweetie.
Yep.
With the best intentions, right?
I've had a few of my guests accept that challenge, so I'm always throwing it out there. But no, it was pretty cool, and I didn't even edit the video because I thought it was funny, and she laughed at this too. One of the people videoing it walked behind us just on. We got
You know know what? It's sort of like we're live right now too. It's live, and it actually makes it interesting. It's not perfect. I like stuff like that.
I do too.
It's more real and fun, and people can identify with it. It's not all photoshopped and strung together and perfect. That's life, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. But no, I had a lot of fun with her, and I had a lot of fun in Toronto. I stayed there for a week, and I met some people, and I spent a lot of time with Lisa walking around the street. She showed me the ins and outs with the subway.
Oh yes, yeah. That's an interesting character study.
Yep. And she showed me the shuttle buses, and we went to the movies. Actually, here's a funny story I'm going to share with you.
Good.
Yeah. Horrorama. We went to this. I guess the after party was at a strip club downtown Toronto somewhere.
Oh, that's hilarious.
We don't have them here anymore.
They're starting to fade pretty fast here too, but I think there's still a few in the big city. Yeah, I think.
Well, they had the after party at Strip Bar, and I guess the big event. Mink Stoll was there for at Horrorama.
Yes, drag queen.
No, she was there to sing the quote unquote filthy cabaret.
Oh yes, I remember now. Yes.
Yep.
I just looked her up. Yeah.
And Carl Zitier, who was the composer on Black Christmas, he was at Horrorama, and he's been on my show before. He was playing the keyboards there behind her. And then afterwards, somebody got up dressed as Divine from Pink Flamingos.
Oh, wow.
And sang that
There's
song.
An image, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was a male, and he was singing the song Lollipop.
Lollipop, lollipop, lolly, lolly. That one?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, he reaches down and he pulls this. It was a stuffed toy.
Oh, God.
But it was a not maxi pad. What do you call those? That's got the string on it. Tampax. That's right.
And that was the lollipop.
Yeah, it pops that out, and it's a little stuffed toy with red coloring on the end of it. And he swings it above his head and lets that thing loose, and it sails across the room, and it comes down and it hits me on the arm and drops at my feet. And I'm looking down at it. I look up and everybody's staring at me. So I reach down, pick it up by the string. I thought Lisa was going to fall off her chair laughing.
Yeah.
I never heard her laugh that hard before or since, and even when we went on the subway afterwards, we went to go get something to eat, she could barely contain herself. And I don't know whether it was Mink Stoll or Leslie Donaldson. One of them walked by me and said, "You're not in Fredericton anymore."
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I know Leslie, too, because she's good friends with Lisa. She's a lovely person, too. I really like her, and a wonderful actor.
I've had Leslie on a couple of times as well, yeah.
You got all the good gals.
Yeah.
All the nice, earthy gals. Oh, I like Leslie, too, yeah.
Yeah, I got some nice pictures of them at the Horrorama, and at the time I'd interviewed her and Lisa both twice, but by the time the following year came, I had about another 4 or 6 interviews from that event. And I went back again last year as well, going again this year.
Well, sometimes it's nice to repeat interviews, and it's also nice to meet some wonderful new people, so you get a good combo platter there, right? Yes. Yeah. I love it, yep.
But, that was my, one of the funniest story. And Lisa has since asked me if I still had that, and I said, yeah. I still had it. I was joking with her on the subway saying, I wonder whose stocking I'm going to put this in at Christmas.
Oh, that's funny.
Or whether I let the cat play with it.
You guys can have that joke till the end of time, right?
Yes. She'll still ask me about that. So that was pretty funny. That was a great time. So, Yeah. But how do you know Lisa? Because I come connected with you through Lisa.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. I met Lisa. I remind her about this now and then, but when I was first started acting, I was in an acting class, and they used to have special guests that were working actors speak. And I saw I think it was a brochure at the time, they advertised that a well-known actress named Lisa Langlois was going to be speaking to our acting class. And I went, oh my God, she's a big star. She starred in this movie in Quebec called Villette Noisière when she was 18, and such a fan of her. She's so beautiful, and she's a big star. I've got to go. And she spoke in my acting class, and I went up to her after, and I was tongue-tied. Like I was a fangirl before we became really good friends. I said, like an idiot. Like I could not put two sentences together. And so I remind her of that, and she laughs, because then we started, through mutual friends, we started to hang around in Los Angeles, because we both do the Canadian actress thing. You know, we divide our time between Canada and the U.S. and Los Angeles and Toronto. And I'd go to her house. I was at her baby shower, and we'd go out for lunch, and we talk a lot on the phone, and it's just been, so it started at an acting class where I was a fan, and she was the big star.
I guess you had a situation like me.
Kind of, yeah. We were fangirls. Well, you're a fanboy. We were fans.
Yep.
Yeah, and now we're really good friends. So, yeah, actually, yes. And we're obviously mutually actors, and we were in the same project together. She was working on this was a very interesting indie project called Hank Williams First Nation. It was done by the Indigenous Channel here in Canada, and we went to Peace River, Alberta, a small town of 4,000 people, and we did this series about Indigenous people, and it was about me, a woman from New York who moves to a small town to teach Aboriginal children. And she played the French teacher in the school, and he said, can you recommend somebody who could play the mother that's from New York that comes to a small town? She says, you got to hire Ellen Dubin. So and then I hired a friend of mine named Andrew Jackson, a wonderful Canadian actor, to be my love interest. So, because I thought, I'm going to pay it forward, because she recommended me, which I will never forget. I never forget people who help me, because it's so far and few between in our business that I was so grateful. And it was a small project, but I had the best time. There was something magical about being in this small town. And also, on a side note, it had the best wonton soup in a Chinese restaurant I've ever eaten in my life. Sometimes you find these hidden gems in the smallest towns. But so Lisa and I ended up doing that show together, but we didn't work together, and we've never been in a scene together yet. I think we'd be great together, because we're very different types of actors, but we're both hard workers, and we'd probably have a lot of great chemistry. So anyway, that's how I met Lisa.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because I've interviewed both Dick Miller before he passed away, and I've interviewed Belinda Belaski on here 4 times, and they've both been very prevalent in the Joe Dante films.
Oh, yes.
And one
Gremlins,
thing...
right?
What's that?
Gremlins?
Yeah, they're both in Gremlins. And they were... I think it was Belinda said, out of all the times that they've been in movies together, the only time they ever shared a scene was in a bookstore scene in The Howling.
Wow. Oh, wow. Well, one, better than nothing.
Yep.
No, we haven't yet, but you know what? We will. I'm confident we will.
Maybe it might be in a bookstore.
Hey, I'll take a bookstore. I'll take that.
Sure. Or maybe they're just a store full of tablets, because that seems to be what people are using nowadays. I do still read books, but I'm still old-fashioned. I still listen to CDs too. So. Oh,
that's okay.
Yep.
That's okay. I still have a home phone, so a lot of younger people, like in their 20s, don't have home phones anymore.
No.
So I like it. It's like my mother says, I don't want to read on an iPad. I want to read a book. I said, Mom, you can read a book. It's okay. She says, I like to have something in my hands. I don't want to have an iPad. If you're used to it, Sometimes technology is great, and other times you're just like, I'm going to just read a book. I'm going to use a phone,
Yeah.
at home. Oh, the crazy world, huh?
Well, I need to know how you got your role in Napoleon Dynamite, because that film is celebrating its 15-year anniversary.
Yeah, I made it when I was 6 years old, by the way, just for your listeners. I just wanted them to know that. Yeah, I was 6 years old. It was a very young mom. First of all, when you say 15 years, I mean, the cliche of time flies. It truly does. I cannot believe it's 15 years. And the way I got the part, here's a story for everybody, and no matter what business you are in, you never know when one job will lead to the next, or you never know where people will land.
Mm-hmm.
And flashback before Napoleon Dynamite, I've done a lot of sci-fi as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And my first big sci-fi series that put me on the map in the sci-fi world was this underground cult show called Lex, L-E-X-X.
Okay.
It was on Showtime, and then it was bought by the Sci-Fi Channel, and we got to tour the world. We went to Halifax, and we went to South Africa, and Thailand, and Germany, and Vietnam. Some of the actors went to. It was a wonderful, wonderful, crazy show. It was just before social media, like 20-something years ago, so it didn't quite have the impact on the fans, but new people are finding it now. I think it's on either Netflix or Amazon. I forget which one. So at the time, there was a science fiction magazine called Cinescape.
Mm-hmm.
It was an actual hard copy. Remember they used to have magazines of sci-fi and fantasy and horror, and there'd be pictures on how the makeup was done or how the movie was made and interviews with us actors.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular guy named Chris Wyatt interviewed me as my character was Jiggerada the Wicked. I was sort of the sexy comic relief of the show, and I wasn't the leading lady. I was sort of the second leading lady, and more character and fun and the comic relief. He interviewed me for that, and we took a bunch of pictures. It's okay. So, file that. A couple years later, he did a pilot, and he phoned me up. He said, "You're funny. You're fast. I'm doing this pilot like Mystery Science Theater." Did you ever see Mystery Science Theater, Greg?
Yes.
Which is hilarious. He said, "We're going to look at old shows or old movies that are really bad, and we're going to review them, and we're just going to sort of play off each other, and you're fast and funny, so we're going to do it." So we shot this pilot, and it was, I don't think it went anywhere, but we watched some terrible movie, not a killer tomato, but I think it was literally a killer pickle eating the world. It was so bad. It was so bad. And then, several years after that, or a couple years after that, he says, "Hey, a friend of mine is doing this movie, and I'm producing it with him, called Napoleon Dynamite, and we're going to Preston, Idaho, outside of Salt Lake City. I'm going to send you the script, and let me know, would you like to be in it?" I said, "Okay, send me the script." So I read this, I went, what the heck is this? It was really hard to read it. This grandma's got a llama, and the guy goes, "Sweet, you want some tater tots?" And what is this? I was like, oh, I don't know. But I thought, you know what? I'm at the point, nobody's asking me to do a movie. I've never been outside of Salt Lake City. They're going to fly me. They're going to put me in a hotel. They're going to feed me. They're going to give me a costume. It's union. I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And my agent at the time, I'll never forget this because I ran into him a couple of years ago. He goes, this is crap. Don't do this movie. It's going to go nowhere. It's going to be like every other movie. It's going to go in somebody's basement. This is just a vanity project. It's crap. I said, you know what? There's something charming about it. I'm going to do it. What do I have to lose? Okay. So I'll go and do the movie. And then, of course, became the iconic comedy of a generation, and lots of references are still made to it, because I saw on a TV show last week. Somebody said, yeah, my date was sort of like a combination of Napoleon Dynamite, and I forget the other one because I tuned out. And but I thought it's still being used as words or euphemisms or prototypes still to this day. And I ran into that agent, segue back for a sec, ran into that agent a couple of years ago, and he looked at me and he said, "I know, Napoleon Dynamite, foot in mouth, idiot, I am." So that's how I got Napoleon Dynamite. I was in this sci-fi show that this guy was a huge fan of. He interviewed me and remembered me and then gave me the part.
It's interesting, too, because they say that a film like that might go nowhere. But here's the thing: the film, and I can say the same thing for The Big Lebowski, Office Space.
Yes.
Films that weren't initially big hits that ended up becoming something bigger because they had some staying power. They had something unique to offer. Which is why you still see them quoted. And Napoleon Dynamite definitely had a whole slew of very awkward characters all through it, which I think is part of the appeal right there.
I believe that I agree with you completely. I believe that everybody has a nerd in them.
Mm-hmm.
We all have something nerdy about us. You may not always be able to put your finger on it. And the characters were so different and so unique. And I think the producers and the writer, Jared and Jerusha Hess, were very smart because they actually used the town. They used the places that they grew up in small town Preston, Idaho. It gave it such a great flood. I mean, the town is part of the character, too.
Yeah.
Yes, the characters are, but the school, the houses, the decor. If you really look at that movie, everything is so brilliantly. The little karate thing. I mean, the school. It's just so. It's in another time period. It's like there's something. It's timeless, and yet it seems like it's another time period. That's the beauty of it, because it looks like it's kind of 70s, maybe 50s. What's the time period? It's and I really do believe, and I tell this to people in interviews, that we're all nerds, and we all can identify with it. Plus, it was a very interesting, different type of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
As an actor who did a lot of comedy, I do a lot of comedy. I do a lot of drama, too. I'm very lucky. But comedy is usually fast and furious. And if you notice the pace of that movie, everybody talks really slow. It's very bizarre. If you think about it, comedy is usually snappy. And, it's usually one of the first notes you get as an actor when you go on a comedy set. Faster, faster, louder, louder. I mean, it's the worst direction, but there's a pace to it. This one, he said to all of us, and he was very specific about our characters. He said, I want you to talk really slowly.
Talk about the llama.
I never met the llama, and I wanted to.
You didn't get to feed a llama food it's not supposed to eat. I like it when he keeps whipping the food at it.
Oh God, no! But Sandy Martin did the grandma, and she and I are with the same voice agency in Los Angeles, and I used to run into her a lot. And I go, "You got to feed the llama." I know I did. I was lucky. It's like such a character. She is so funny. But no, I didn't get to do any. And you know how they say don't work with kids and pets?
Yeah.
I was really wanting to work with that pet.
That poor llama.
I know. I think he was treated. I think he got fed better than we did. We had. I still think it's the most fun I've ever had in a set, and probably the worst food, but still the best. We had Wonder Bread with squeezy cheese whiz and apple squares. I always remember food, and I mean, it was not a good food, but they had no budget. Yeah, and the cheese whiz. You know the stuff that squeezes like mustard?
Yep.
On white bread?
Yep.
On Wonder Bread? Oh, it was bad, but it was the best ever, honestly. And the hotel was so, how do I put this nicely? Oh, it was garbage. It was crap. It was a motel, and it had the M off. So it was like, it said hotel.
Yeah.
And me and Tina Margarino, we shared sort of like, I was on one side, and you know the motels and it's joined by a door, some of them?
Yep.
So we were in adjoining rooms, and she came with her mother because she was still really young, and both of us were laughing. They took us to this local store. I think it was kind of maybe a Walmart outside of the place because there was no stores in the place. And I remember buying a huge towel, beach towel, to put on top of the bed and some really crappy, cheap men's pajamas because the bed, when you touched it, it literally had a pile of dust. You know, like in an old horror movie,
Yep.
you see cobwebs come out, Greg? And we were both laughing, and she was laughing, and we both slept in our clothes that we bought at this sort of crappy store, cheesy store, and we slept on top of the bed in clothes on a towel. And at the end of it, we put it in a big garbage bag and left it there because it was the dirtiest motel I've ever seen. And I've got to tell you, I've never had more fun in my life. It was better than staying at the Ritz or the Hyatt or something like that. But yeah, we still talk about that. And when the water comes out of the tap for the shower.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I now do this in every hotel I go to. I think it started there. The water came out brown and rusty.
Oh.
So I did take a couple of sort of showers, but when I got home, I remember just standing in the shower, and not that any water's really great, and I'm just going, oh, it's not coming out rusty. But again, I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. It was the best. And to be honest with you, people ask me, and I'm sure people wonder, like, when you're doing a movie like that, do you know? And anybody who says they know, you can't know. You could not know.
So you didn't stay in Uncle Rico's van?
No, I didn't stay in his van, but I would say that he's one of the best actors I've ever worked with in my life. He's a transformer. He's a chameleon. We're very similar that way. He looks different all the time. And
John Grice, yeah.
No, I didn't even get to stay in his van. I know, I didn't get the llama or the van. I didn't even get to eat a tater tot.
No.
No, I didn't. I didn't get a tater tot.
We got to talk about John Hayter, of course, who played Napoleon Dynamite. I mean, what an image. It goes right on there with Jeff Bridges as Jeff Lebowski, the dude.
Well, Jeff Bridges, by the way, segue for set. I have a huge crush on Jeff Bridges and that performance. And they're remaking it, right?
Not that I heard of.
I heard they were remaking the Big Lebowski.
Ouch. How can they possibly remake that and make it any better?
Well, let me just see. I just read something. Jeff Bridges is open to it, but only under one condition: if I was in it. Maybe it's just a speculatory ad or article, but I'd heard they might be remaking one. Wouldn't that be great? So.
Well, if he's in it, well, they've been at the Coen brothers to do a sequel, and the Coen brothers won't budge, and I guess the cast is open for it.
Yeah, if I was in it, so many things flash when he thinks of the Big Lebowski. Yeah, well, he said he'd do it again. There you go.
Yep.
Maybe that was just they just saw him on the red carpet and decided to do that interview. Yeah, but John Heder is again a very iconic performance, huh?
Yep.
And
doing that dance.
He ad-libbed that, And
I don't doubt it.
He can dance.
Yeah.
He ad-libbed that, and it's a brilliant ending. And for me, my experience with John was he was in character all the time. I never saw John Heder. I saw Napoleon Dynamite, and the first time I saw him was when I opened the door.
And him in that brown suit.
If you know me really well, I have incredible discipline as an actor, and I don't laugh like, Harvey Korman and Tim Conway, they laughed.
Mm-hmm.
But I literally bit my tongue so hard. Is Trish there? I take a pause, and honestly, it was my first day on set, and the first take. The last thing you want to do is mess up because it's your first shot. But literally, I almost lost it several times. And now and then I try and say, "Hey, John, how you doing?" I'm fine. How are you? And I thought, okay, he's going to stay in character, and you have to respect that. You have to respect that with the teeth and the afro and the walk with the dangly arms. I mean, it's actually a really brilliant performance because he really isn't like that at all. He's a nice-looking guy.
Yeah, well, he kind of got typecast to that. It's never left him.
Story. Sometimes you're so brilliant at a performance, they can't see anything else.
I mean, they even got the Napoleon Dynamite cartoon, and I guess they got him voicing in that.
Yeah, it didn't. Unfortunately, it didn't go any further because I do a lot of voice work and video games and animation, and I was really hoping to do an episode of that, but it never transpired because I think the show got canceled. And there's been talks of sequels and television series. I heard one a couple weeks ago about a television series bringing, younger versions of themselves, but right now nothing definitive. I don't know. Tough act to follow, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. What'd you think of his brown suit?
Oh, I wanted it.
That's like that Saturday Night Fever white suit John Travolta has. Well,
yes, exactly. Good point. There's a similarity in the cheesy style.
Yeah.
But it was perfect. Wasn't it perfect?
Yep.
Yeah. It has that otherworldly time period.
I like the moment in the film where he and Pedro are doing the whole jump thing on the bikes, and it works for Pedro, but when he does it, something breaks, it jams up in his crotch.
Oh, yes. And they're so awkward, right?
Yep.
They're so spastic. It's fantastic. I love it when they're and the guy who played his brother, and then he goes out with La Fonda, and he finds her online. Wasn't that hilarious?
Holy cow! The socks with the holes in them. He's got.
It's so perfect. And of course, Dietrich Bader is the karate instructor who does very well as an actor. I mean, he was on Drew Carey, and he's in
he's in Office Space.
Yes, isn't he brilliant?
Well, I love the line in Office Space where the guy goes, Peter Gibbons goes, "What would you do if you had $1 million?" And he goes, "I'll tell you what I'd do. 2 chicks at the same time. I bet you if I was a millionaire, I could make that happen." He goes, "What would you do?" And the guy goes, "Besides 2 chicks at the same time?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Nothing. I'd sit around all day and do nothing." And Dietrich Bader says the best line. I still quote. He goes,
"Make anything funny." Oh yeah. You know that was made before Napoleon Dynamite.
Yep.
1999.
Yep. And
I forgot it was Mike Judge.
Yeah, and he goes, "Nothing. You don't need $1 million to do nothing. Just look at my cousin. He's broke and don't do shit." I love the logic in that.
Yeah, it's funny.
And then you see him as Rex in Napoleon Dynamite, and it's like he is so underrated, I think.
I think so too. That was a brilliant performance. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you bow to his senses?
No, I didn't bow to his senses or his sensei.
His sensei.
Again, I didn't get to spend any time with him, but he's also with my voice agent, both him and Sandy Martin, so I would see him at our Christmas parties, and we would laugh about it. It's just, you shake your head.
He doesn't do Rex Taekwondo right there.
No, he doesn't. No,
he doesn't wear those interesting pants.
Oh, those pants. Those were wasn't that a great wardrobe? I mean, I think the wardrobe was great. I was in all this polyester stuff with these hilarious. I had purple polyester, then I had green, and I was really thin at the time, and they only had this size, like 5 sizes bigger. So they put like a big clothespin behind me, like, and pinched it tight. It was very funny. I was walking around with clothespins on my back. I remember that. I just never told anybody that. I just remembered that. So, oh gosh, what a funny movie. It makes you smile.
And of course,
and it's a movie like I can hear all the quotes.
Yep.
Everybody can quote the whole movie to me.
Yes. One of my favorite performances was John. It's John Grease or Grise? I don't want to mispronounce his name, but I mean he was in. I try to think of that 1983 video game movie, the Joysticks or something like that. But anyway, he was in a Real Genius. Like, the guy is, like you said, a chameleon actor, and now he's
Absolution. He was in the Hitman Absolution.
Yep.
Let's see, Napoleon Dynamite. Oh, yeah, he was on Lost, Martin, The Pretender, The Monster Squad, Real Genius, Dream Corps.
And, of course, everybody's going to remember him now as...
You're right, King Vidiot. I don't know this movie at all.
Yeah, King Vidiot.
Kind of before my time. But I'll have to see this now.
Yep. Well, he... everybody's going to remember him as Uncle Rico.
Oh, of course.
And I love the fact that when Napoleon throws the grapefruit there and it hits the van, and awkward fight they get into. Yeah,
it's so spastic. Again, here we go with that word, spastic. It's so funny. Yes, it's very nerdy. Yeah. Yeah.
And, of course, he wants to go back to 1982. I can't blame him. A lot of great movies come out that year. But he wants to go back to be a football player, because I guess
he plays. There's that scene where he's outside and he's sort of playing with the football, and I'm back then, and that's sort of his manliness, and when he's talking to the women and trying to sell the Tupperware, it's part of his charm, being the athlete in his head, It's actually an interesting character trait of Uncle Rico.
I love that he picks a steak up and throws it and it hits Napoleon Dynamite in the head. Poor Kip's just sitting there trying to get in that steak. He grabs Kip's steak and throws it. Kip can't get in it, so might as well use it for that.
Oh, he was a funny actor too. Aaron Rule was his name.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
girl that played my daughter was a local. I don't even think she wanted to go into acting, but she was very sweet to work with. She invited me to her wedding, and I never was able to go. But Emily was her
Emily Kennard.
Yeah, Emily. She was a sweetie. But
yeah.
Lots of interesting faces in that movie.
She didn't want to go with Napoleon to the prom.
No, even after that beautiful picture I showed her. God, when I saw that the first time, I had to hold my tongue, too, because I thought I was going to laugh my head off. It was so bad, it was good.
Did she keep it?
She didn't, and I wish, you know what, it's funny. Somebody asked me, a friend of mine asked me if I had that picture. I wish if I was more savvy back then, because I wasn't thinking then as an actor, I should keep a souvenir. And I actually have, I'm trying to think if I've kept everything from every show something. I've always asked a prop or a piece of, I have nothing. I have a Napoleon Dynamite bauble doll that somebody got me that's in plastic, but that was not from the set, and I have a Napoleon Dynamite that's still in plastic pen, and I have the Vote for Pedro t-shirt. But I don't have anything on. I usually try to get something that my character used. The picture would have been the thing. Boy, can you imagine how much that would be worth now?
Why don't you ask Bader for his pants? Could you imagine?
I will ask. Okay, I'm going to tell him I did an interview with you, and if I see him at the next Christmas party come December, I will ask him if he kept those pants.
And then you could wear them around Toronto.
Yeah, now the Christmas party will be in L.A., yeah.
But no, Aaron Ruel was really funny as Kip, and I love that little slap fight he and Napoleon get into, that obviously he's not trained very well as he thinks.
Yeah.
Napoleon just slaps him in the head.
Yeah.
I was sitting online all day chatting with babes. And of course, when LaFonya gets off,
childish, huh?
Well, when LaFonya gets off the bus, number one, I like the fact that we're completely thrown off as soon as we see her, and not just from her appearance. It's the fact that her character, like I loved when she gives the mixtape to Napoleon,
I know. It's a sweet gesture, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like, because you hear horror stories about people meeting online and this and that, and she ends up being one of the good ones. And, of course, I'm sitting at that picnic table and playing footsies and just looking.
Oh, gosh, she was funny. Yeah, I never met her either. Yeah, Chandrella Avery's her name.
Yeah, and of course, at the end, he's all cooled up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, God, funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and John Grise, of course, one of my favorites in the movie is Uncle Rico. And I got to say, and without giving anything away, I do like his last scene in the movie where it's kind of like, because in a way, he's kind of looked at as the antagonist. He's one of these people that does the wrong thing but doesn't seem to realize he's doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, and that's a very good way of putting it. He's a lovable character. You still care about him, don't you?
Yes.
Which is a feat in itself and a testament to his acting, because he does some crazy things and some so-called sleazy things, but he's really, really good.
Yeah, and I like that last scene with him where I won't give away, but where it seems to me he's going to make a nice connection that that might allow him to move past where this fixation from the past he's stuck at.
Yeah.
So, but I got to bring up Tina Majorino too, because that I've never seen this before. I've seen Bayley in the WWE do it when she wrestles. The ponytail on the side of the head.
It's my favorite. I was just thinking about her the other day when I was putting my hair in a ponytail, and I was like, I looked in the mirror. That's so funny you brought that up. Very astute. Oh, but it was perfect. Just a perfect look. She was so sweet and cute. Oh, and she had the little beauty school and the beauty products, I mean. Oh, yeah. She's a doll.
Did she not give you any of those little items in her little case?
Oh, again, I didn't take the darn items. I didn't, but she's a joy to work with and spend time with. And she had such an innocence about her. The way you really believed her whole. She was a wonderful actress. This was her movie after she was she was still a child in that, but she was a child. Mm-hmm. What was she in Waterworld, right?
Yeah, I prefer to forget that movie.
9 years old in this, and then I'm just looking 9 years after that. So she was. It made her again, like Napoleon Dynamite made her famous again. Yeah, she's a special girl.
I like that when Napoleon sits at her table and he goes, "I see you're drinking such and such milk. Is that because you think you're fat?" It's like the wrong thing. And she's got part of her sandwich stuck on her face and whatnot. It's like, but I like that because it's like they're not trying to look glamorous.
No. And actually, the makeup was done or very badly done and purposely. Like my makeup was he said, "I'm not going to make it look good. You don't know how to do your makeup." It was very real, and there was no touch-ups during the day, and it was very, very natural. Very natural. That's what the producers and director wanted, and it worked very well. Yeah. Yes,
and of course, Haylie Duff. I got a little story.
I know, I forgot the Duff sisters.
Well, you know what? Haley. I got a story because I met Hillary back in 2006.
You did?
Yeah, she did
or at a convention.
She did a concert at in St. John, and I got VIP tickets, and that meant I was backstage, and it's funny because I was the only person my age there, but I was like. I saw Avril Lavigne in concert before that, and I was really ticked off that we got a meet and greet with the opening act, but not Avril. So I was like, yeah, and I was like, nobody knew who the opening act was. So I was like, well, I'm gonna fix this with Hillary. So I got a VIP package, and I had somebody drive me down there because I'd never driven to St. John. Probably would still need driven down there, but. I bought some roses, and I brought my CD, and I gave them to her, and I got my picture taken with her, and I have it blown up and framed.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but here's the interesting thing. Somebody from the stadium had said that she wasn't signing autographs. And it was kind of a downer, so I did the picture thing, and I went and stood over to the side like we were supposed to, instructed, and then I noticed that there were people behind me that were getting stuff signed. And I was like, I brought a CD, like a little bit of false information. So I wasn't allowed to go back over there with my CD. So I remember when she was walking past me, I held my CD up with a pen, and she came right over.
Oh, see, you were smart the way you attracted attention.
Yep. And I remember Hillary was so cool, and she put on a good show, and a lovely person. So
I met their mom in a nail salon in L.A. She was talking to the nail technician. She said, "Yes, my daughters are actors," and blah 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 blah. And I went, "God, she looks a petite blonde. She looks very pretty. She reminds me of like an older Haylie Duff." And I said to her, "Your kids are in show business?" I'm sorry to interrupt. She goes, "Yeah." I said, "I'm going out on a limb here, but are you the mother of Haylie and Haylie Duff?" She goes, "Yeah. How do you know?" I said, they look like you. She was like, and I said, "Well, I was in Napoleon Dynamite with your daughter." And she said, "What did you play?" And she said, "Oh my God, you're so funny." I said, "You don't look like that." And I said, "Well, I don't wear purple polyester and tease my hair like that." But she goes, and so we just started talking. She was so nice. She manages their career too, the mother. So anyway, it's just a small world where you meet people, and that's a very cool story of your stuff.
And of course, you mentioned Pedro delivering pizza and Tammy and T-Rex.
Yeah.
In this one here, he delivers a cake, and I guess it doesn't go anywhere.
He is the energy and the chemistry between him and John Heder is phenomenal. And he's actually maybe even more popular. Not that Napoleon's not popular, but he really had a huge impact on the fans.
Yeah.
That character.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen anybody quite like... I mean, we've never seen anybody like Napoleon. I don't think we've ever seen anybody like Pedro. I mean, his energy was so... Again, comedy, usually people are not low-key. Even if you're a low-key-ish character, he had absolutely no energy.
Yes. Well, what was your memories of Haylie Duff?
Haylie? Didn't get to spend much time with her either. Just a couple of times, in... lunch as we were sitting in the backyard. Just fun and joyful, and enjoyed the movie and having a good time. And again, one of my earlier movies. So only spent most of the time I spent was with Ephraim, actually. We spent a lot of time on the swings in the backyard on lunch break, sitting there on the swings.
You didn't hit the ball back and forth like Napoleon?
Tetherball? No. I should have. But no, we were just, and I have pictures of me and Ephraim. I really got to put them out. I've nobody has seen. We're literally sitting on swings and on little seesaws. We're on a seesaw together. Very tall Ellen and small Ephraim, like Mutt and Jeff, because I'm so tall and he's smaller. So it's very funny.
Yeah. What do you think? 15 years and that film, it's become a cult film. This is something you don't see when you make the movie. And, it's what I say, always told people. It's like in 1998, one of the highest grossing films was Armageddon.
Yes.
It was horrible. But people now remember The Big Lebowski. Yep. So, I mean, Napoleon Dynamite, I don't remember what the highest grossing film in 2004 was right off the top of my head, but Napoleon Dynamite certainly was one of the biggest sleeper hits of the year, of course.
For sure.
Yes.
I mean, to say I was in a cult classic, American Graffiti, apparently they compared it to American Graffiti, that it was the film of that generation, and they say that Napoleon Dynamite is the comedy film of this generation, the 21st century. It's pretty amazing, actually. People are quoting, all the dialogue. It just seems to unify all people. I don't know, it's just a very interesting phenomenon. And, I know that John would say he was very proud to be a part of this movie, and I have to say that I am too, that it's affected so many people and makes people smile. I mean, what better recognition than that? It's may not have been my biggest part, but it's one of the biggest films I've ever done in terms of a classic. And I mean, how many people get to say they're part of the vernacular of a generation? So I think it's pretty amazing.
Yes. Let's talk about some of your other films, that you've done, so that, anybody listening can check out the rest of your reel. You did The Red Maple Leaf.
Yeah, that was an independent film out of Canada. A guy named Frank D'Angelo. I've done a few movies with him. He's an interesting character. This is a man who makes movies, full-length features, in 3 days. There's a sort of script, and you mostly improvise. And he says, in this scene, the mobster comes and kidnaps your child, or I'm just making it up. And then but he gets the great. I mean, what was great for me? I was the villain in Red Maple Leaf. Actually, I was the bad guy. This movie had James Caan, Chris Christopherson, Martin Landau, Paul Sorvino, Mira Sorvino, Armand Assante, Robert Loggia, Doris Roberts, Eric Roberts, Daniel Baldwin, Margot Kidder, Michael Pare. So he gets all his favorite actors. His favorite movie is The Godfather. The first thing I did with him was Real Gangsters, and then I did something called Big Fat Stone, where I played this woman who could never get a man and gets screwed over by a con artist, which was fun for me because I usually play the strong, powerful woman, so it was nice to be the victim in this. And he's sort of got a repertory of actors, a company of actors that he brings in, and he gets all the iconic actors. I mean, let's see, Big Fat Stone, I work with Ray Abruzzo, and again, the same Margot Kidder and Robert Loggia and Nick Mancuso, and he gets big. Michael Pare, I worked with Michael 3 or 4 times already. John Savage, I worked with him. He gets all these old, iconic older actors that have, to sit at a table with James Caan and hear his stories, yes, sign me up. This man was in the best movie of all time, The Godfather. So, yeah. Amazing. So these movies that I've done with Frank, are they great? No, but they take risks. And like I said, I did a movie called Sicilian Vampire, and I got to work with every girl's greatest hot dream. Is a lot of my friends love Armand Assante, and I played his mistress, and I played a joke on a friend of mine. This is a funny story, and she's obsessed with him. I don't get obsessions, except with Lisa Langlois. I do lovely. I just admired her. Actually, I've only been tongue-tied twice with Lisa Langlois and Christopher Walken. File that. Anyway, so I get him to phone her on her lunch hour. Hi there. Her name is Ellen, too. Hi there, Ellen. It's Armand Assante. Oh, Ellen, stop it, she says to me. I said, it's true. She said, it's a pretty good impersonation. Do some more. So we're laughing. Armand Assante and I are laughing. Oh, Ellen, I want you. You're supposed to be. I can't imitate him, but she goes, is this Ellen? And so the two of us talk at the same time. And she just went, and then I sent her a picture of the two of us sitting there, and she said, she still kills me to this day. How dare you? And I told him to F himself, and this is not, and get off the phone. I said, it's really him. I've got a picture of him and me on my IMDb on my website. Yeah, those are very interesting films, too. Ad-lib 1 or 2 takes with a huge star is actually incredible acting work. I like it. I like fly by the seat of your pants. If you're an actor that needs a lot of preparation, and some of my friends do, they would not be comfortable on this set. This is a guy that moves fast. He doesn't have time for more than 1 or 2 takes, and he tells you the situation, and then you do it. And the actors are so good, and the scenes end up being so real. And you're stumbling and stuttering and trying to figure out what to say. So anyway, and we go from that to I just finished my biggest movie ever called Midway. It's Roland Emmerich's next movie that's coming out next year. Okay. It's a $250 million, $300 million movie, and Roland Emmerich makes the biggest movies. Independence Day, and so I shot that recently, and it's. I got to work with Woody Harrelson and a wonderful actor named Mark Ralston, who was in 2 of the best movies ever made, Shawshank Redemption and Alien. So, this movie's got Luke Evans and Woody Harrelson and Patrick Wilson and Dennis Quaid and Mandy Moore and Nick Jonas and Alexander Ludwig and Darren Criss and Aaron Eckhart and Jake Weber. It's a cast of a million hot men, really wonderful actors. It's a World War II piece. based on the true story of Midway, between the Japanese and American, the story of the Battle of Midway.
I got to ask you about some of these actors because you mentioned Nick Mancuso. I've had him on the show.
Yes, Nick.
Yeah, we're talking about Black Christmas, and that seems to be what he's mostly known for, is his voice in that.
Nick Mancuso. Well, I know Nick from, just, again, I admired his work. I mean, he's a very eclectic man, and a very powerful man, and very political, and very, he's an icon. He starred in a very famous movie that a lot of people saw as we got older. It was called Ticket to Heaven. It was about cults. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen that Canadian movie called Ticket to Heaven?
No, but I've heard of it when I interviewed him.
Yeah, and Black Christmas, I'm just looking at the date, 1970. Yeah, this is all before my time, but he was, we admired him. I mean, he was gorgeous. He did a movie with Steven Seagal where he played the bad guy.
Yep.
I mean, he's got a lot. He was a big movie star. Mm-hmm. And then he just got so fed up with Hollywood he couldn't take it.
I can see that.
He's very vocal. He lives in Italy. He's hibernated. He lives in Italy, does Italian films, and he's really an artist actor. He doesn't like being a big star. He doesn't like that kind of life. Some actors don't want to do it, and he was a big star, and he's actually an incredibly intense actor. I did a movie with him called Sealed with a Kiss, where he played a guy in a club. I think he was my pimp or something. I think I was a hooker or something, a high class hooker. It was one of my first roles, and he has a scene where he threatens me. Ellen was terrified of him. He was really intense. Like, he has this cigarette in the scene that he's supposed to burn close to my eye in the scene. Well, Nick got a little too close for my liking. And, I joked about it later on when I saw him later on. And he's a very, intense is a good word, an intense actor. Very, very, and very, method acting. Very method acting.
And here's a thing, too.
Great actor.
Yeah. I am right now involved in 4 movies right now. And I'll get to the point here because it's going to connect with one of your castmates here. But I'm a co-producer on 13 Fanboy, which is a Friday the 13th spin-off.
Cool.
Yep. So I'm happy to be part of that. But I got this email one night from a guy that I've interviewed named James Balsamo. And he asked me, and I wasn't expecting this. I stared at this email for like a minute or so before I picked up the phone and called him to ask him if he's serious. He wanted me to film my own death scene on my phone. And he put it in his movie Cool as Hell 2. Wow,
that's a strange request.
Yep.
Oh,
well,
I'm looking him up here. Yeah, jack of all trades, songwriter, actor, sculptor, filmmaker. Wow, horror genre.
Yeah, and he gets all of these people at these conventions to be in his films.
Hilarious.
Cool as Hell 2. I've met Linnea Quigley, and I'm right now working on getting her on my show. I met her at Horrorama last year.
Yeah, she's very famous for that stuff. Yep.
Yep, and I got an idea for my death scene just from watching her in the trailer for it. And the point I'm getting at, I'm cameoed in 3 James Balsamo movies, and the second one I'm cameoed in is It Wants Blood. And he says in a message on Facebook, he goes, I want you to shoot 2 scenes. This is your character. This is what I want you to say in the first scene.
Same thing like Frank D'Angelo. Yeah.
Yeah, he says, I want you to say this in the first part and this in the second part. We're different clothes in each one. And he said that those scenes are going to be watched on a television by Eric Roberts. And I was like, sold.
Speaking of Eric, Eric, I had a lot of time waiting for my scene, and I spent at least an hour talking to him in the dressing room, and he is brilliantly smart. He's by the way, if you get a click here, I'm just changing phones because I'm going to run out of juice on this phone, so I'm going to just change phones. Hang on, listeners.
Sure.
Eric is absolutely the most interesting person. Great stories. Oh, gosh. Amazing stories. And he, speaking of people who are so good in their roles like Napoleon, like John, he was so synonymous with Star 80 that he couldn't get a job after that because he was so brilliantly eerie and scary. God, he was fantastic in that movie. No one wanted to hire him, though. They thought he was him. That's how good he was. You know, it's just some actors, they're so brilliant in parts. But anyway, Eric, yeah. So, work with some interesting people. And I got to do one of my goals, because I really wanted to do The Walking Dead, but I never got an audition for that, is I got to do, you were talking about my movies, a zombie movie called Dead Before Dawn 3D with Devin Bostwick and the fantastic Christopher Lloyd. And so I got to play this sweet mommy who turns into a zombie, a very vindictive, crazy zombie. So I got my zombie contact lenses and that, I got to do those noises, and I was happy to have that on my list. So horror conventions can now call, right?
Yep. Hey, get in touch with Chris Alexander, because he's the guy that does the Horrorama.
Yeah, I've just checked it out. They don't have all their guests announced. I might if I'm not doing anything. The only convention I have coming up is I do San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
I want to see 250,000 people in a room.
Are you doing that for Napoleon Dynamite?
I do it for Napoleon Dynamite. I do it for Fallout 4. I do it for Skyrim. I do a lot of video game voice acting. I do it for Lex, my old sci-fi show. A lot of things. You know, you sit there and you have all your different pictures from different shows, and but the video game stuff is very, very popular. And I've been in some major, as a voice actor, AAA projects. So the fans come, and there's a variety of stuff. I've done the Highlander. You know, different shows that people come to. So you make sure you have a variety. You never know. It's all pop culture stuff, from horror to fantasy to video games to sci-fi. So you never know when a fan's going to want something. So I always bring a suitcase and have a good variety. You gotta be prepared, right, Greg?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Paul and Mira Sorvino. I love Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Oh, that was a great movie. Lisa Kudrow, right?
Yep. I love Mira Sorvino. There's an innocence about her.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yep.
She and her dad is obviously a iconic actor.
What about Margot Kidder? You've mentioned her. We just recently lost her. Speaking of Black Christmas.
Yes. Well, I did 2 projects with her, something called Real Gangsters, and I think she was in Big Fat Stone as well. And sadly, this man who's given us all this work, Frank D'Angelo, he lost. I mean, I get worried working for him. Doris Roberts' last movie, Robert Loggia's last movie was with him, and Margot Kidder. Margot Kidder and I would sit and wait for our shots, and she is a brassy, ballsy, fantastic woman. Oh, my God, I've never laughed so hard. She's a real broad.
Mm-hmm.
She's a real broad. And she told me she went to Branksome Hall, which is a very elegant private girls' school. But she's got a mouth, and this is not telling tales out of school or anything bad against her. She has a mouth like a sailor. She can swear with the best of them, and she loves it. She loves playing with words, and I was very sad to see that she'd passed away, because she was really coming along and having fun in life and getting work. And it's very interesting, because the last movie she did, I think, was, when did she pass? Is it a year now?
Yeah, something like that.
She came back to Toronto to do it because she lives like in Colorado or somewhere she told me she just wanted to get out of New York and LA and live in a beautiful kind of place with the woods. So she had that sort of serene lifestyle that really, really helped her spirit, you know. She was in great spirits. She was great to work with. That's the phone buzzing through, listeners, not me making noises.
Well, it's interesting because she was very brassy in Black Christmas.
Was she?
Oh, yes.
That movie. It's one of my dad's favorite horror movies.
Yeah.
You should see it.
Yeah, well, she's got a mouth in that, too.
Yeah. She's got that great voice. She got that great voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was amazing. I was in awe. Listen, I'm sitting beside Lois Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Who could not be in awe of that?
Exactly.
You don't forget those parts.
No, and I know you did. Was it TV show Mary
Kills People, which is on right now.
I kind of clicked on it. I really like Caroline Devanez.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Yep. What is she like?
Oh, she's a fantastic actor. She is the first scene I did with her. I've done now 4 episodes. I played the head of the hospital. You probably didn't even recognize me. I'm unrecognizable in it. My mother just said, "Where were you?" I said, "Mom, that was me in the scene that you just saw on television." She goes, "Oh, okay." I played her boss, and in the first season I had 3 episodes, and I just was on last week. One quick scene with the wonderful Canadian actress Grace L.K. I had one quick scene with her. And the first day I did Mary Kills People, I was sick. I had a really bad flu and 102 degrees, and this beautiful girl sits down beside me, Carolyn, and she just starts saying the words from the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, she's really into it. She's one of those actors you cannot tell where the actor starts and the person starts, because she's so real and so into it. I loved working with her, and she's a doll.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful inside and out. And everybody loves working with her. She works her butt off, and it's a very interesting show.
Yes.
Very interesting show.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, what was you going to say? Why did you finish off before I...
I think that Mary Kills People is a very risky, but very topical project, because it's a very, people are always afraid to talk about death, and God forbid, if you have a terrible illness, would you end your life? I mean, there's controversy in this subject, because people say, well, you can't play God, don't play God. Who are you to decide if you should live or die? And, should a person who's in that situation, if they're, deathly ill and they know they don't have a life, are they entitled to end their life? It's a very, and for Lifetime channel, which is, I used to do a lot of Lifetime movies, this is not a subject matter, it's usually a very simple subject matter in Lifetime. Boy meets girl, boy stalks girl, boy gets put in jail, and everybody's happy. But I think it's very well done, and the writers, the Cameron sisters who wrote this project, very, very clever and very different. I don't think people will ever forget Mary Kills People. I don't. And I think they hired the perfect girl for it, the lead, because she's so innocent looking and so fragile, like a flower, this girl. And the casting's very good. Like, she's not she doesn't look like she's ballsy. She doesn't look like she could break, anybody, that she would hurt anybody. It's very clever casting. So, and she's just doing her job. She's helping people according to her character, according to Mary. And Carolyn, I think, really teeters on the side of just doing good for people. And that's why I like how she plays it. So, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say 2 things. Number 1, do you have any charities you wish to promote, and a web page you want to plug on here?
That would be a very... let's talk about the charity for a bit. I was working with Make-A-Wish for a while, and Make-A-Wish, and just in case your listeners don't know, is children who have terminal illnesses, who have one last wish, their families, to have their child go to Disneyland or play with their favorite hockey player, or play with the Blue Jays, or meet their favorite movie star. A lot of the kids want to go to Disneyland. That's meet Mickey Mouse. That's one of the top ones, a fly in a plane with a pilot. And this is people donate to Make-A-Wish, and then the kids get their last wishes. And a new one that I'm going to start to be working with is probably the Alzheimer's Society, because my father passed of Alzheimer's recently, and I really believe, I forget what the numbers are, how many millions of people in the world and in North America have and will have Alzheimer's or some form of dementia in the coming years, because as the population gets older, we're lasting longer. This disease is very prominent. So those are the two I'm very passionate about. And my website is my name. It's easy, ELLENDUBIN, ellendubin.com. And if you go there, there's an email address, GIGGEROTA 100, Jiggerata100 at AOL.com. Jiggerata was the first character I ever played in sci-fi, Lex, that put me on the map with fans. So I respond to every person's email. That is my special email address for fans. If they have any questions or need anything, I'm always there. If I'm working, sometimes I'll be a day or two late, but I'm very hands-on with my fans. I like to answer everybody's questions. If they take the time, if you take the time, I have to take the time. I really believe it. It's really important.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
so I look forward to hearing from everybody.
When you do conventions, what's the most interesting thing you've ever been asked to sign?
Oh. How'd you like that for that laugh? Did you get that from the laugh? I recently did a Lex reunion in New York in December. Me and Xenia and Michael McManus and Brian Downey, who were the four leads of the show. A guy asked me to sign his backside, and I said, sorry, I won't go there. And he said, okay, then just sign my arm. I said, okay, I'll sign your arm. You sure, though? He said, yes, sign my arm. And he had a bunch of tattoos, so I knew that he'd be able to wash this off. But he literally asked me to sign his backside, and I thought, am I going to get security here? And I went, and they were standing by and watching. They were pretty, and they looked at me, and I sort of went, it's okay, it's okay. And I mean, there's a lot of very strange people at these things, but that was the weirdest. But the great part is when they can quote all your lines from your movie, Napoleon Dynamite, not mentioning Greg, or they bring something, a screen capture, or they bring an old, something from a DVD, a picture of you that you've never seen, and you go, how did you get that picture? And something decent, I mean, but they got it off a screen capture of, a movie or something like that. And Napoleon Dynamite, they've had the artwork from the movie. I've had people draw sketches and asked to sign sketches. Now that's pretty amazing. Some people have sketched Aunt Eileen from Napoleon Dynamite. I had that actually at this Lex reunion. People were bringing me Napoleon Dynamite stuff. It's usually one of the top 5 things that I'm signing, even if the convention is not specifically for that. It's usually in the top 5 things that I sign. Yeah. So that's the strangest part of the body I've ever had to sign.
Well, we've pretty much wrapped up on the show here tonight, and got to say, we are celebrating the 15-year anniversary of Napoleon Dynamite, and I loved having you with us there tonight, Ellen Dubin.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. This is Ellen Dubin. I can't even remember my name. You're Ellen Dubin. I'm Ellen Dubin. You're Ellen Dubin. You're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise out of New Brunswick, Canada.
Yes.
New Brunswick, Canada's the place, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And maybe next time I'm in Toronto, maybe you, myself, and Lisa could hook up and...
I would love that, Greg. And as a matter of fact, she's just getting on a plane, and I emailed her that we just did a wonderful interview, and she said, you guys are the best. And I said, you're the best. So all the best girls and boys, we have to go out together for sure when you're in Toronto. I think that would be great. Thank you, Greg, for your wonderful questions and being so passionate about Napoleon Dynamite. I get it, why you are, because I am too.
Absolutely. Well, God bless you, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I look forward to another anniversary of another show, and we will for sure talk again.
Absolutely. You take care, and you have a wonderful
Grant
night.
Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Vote for Pedro.
Well, I will. Bye.
Bye-bye.